you can't have a designated area to smash all your equipment up. Really, I mean that's not a grown-up way about anything. Yeah, I mean, where is the one for this? You know.
While we wait for Stephen Swinford, who is hot-footing it to a room to speak to us from Beijing, he's there with the Prime Minister, of course, on that visit. We can bring in Martin Samuel, who's here with us in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
The Times chief correspondent, of course, who writes about sport and lots of other things. Martin, we've been chatting today on the programme about this opera singer.
Have you seen this story?
Have you seen this amazing story? So this is, huge, big moment. One of the best opera singers in the world, according to Ed Vasey, who's culture man extraordinaire. And he loses his voice halfway through the performance. And this bloke who has turned up at work, I think he's a head of music, he thinks he's having a normal day at work. He goes on to sing from the sidelines. And he sings this, I mean, he misses out the main...
Turandot, isn't it? It was Turandot, yeah.
He misses out Nessun Dorma. So everyone's quite cross about it. But they get through it and they get to the end. But apparently some of the audience turned around and threw things.
Yeah, well... That's modern audiences, Kate.
Yeah.
That is modern audiences.
Do you think things are getting worse? I was trying to...
Oh, things are getting far, far worse.
Is that true in sport as it were in culture, do you think?
Oh, mate, it's more than ever, it's true in sport. I mean, no one can handle losing anymore in sport. Everyone's permanently furious. They're either furious with the team or the manager, always furious with the board, usually furious with the stadium, particularly if it's a 60,000 stadium that's cost about £1 billion. They're all furious with that. It's but sport is, as always, sport is this sort of little microcosm of society.
I mean, I was going to ask you about whether it ever happens in sport that people come on at the last minute, but it does happen because we had a couple of managers recently who've been sacked, and then the new manager turns out to be,
and you get battlefield promotions in sport all the time. You get, the kid that gets called up. There was I think in one of the matches last night, a kid that was never going to be playing for Napoli scores a wonderful goal against Chelsea. Local player, and because of injuries, it happens in sport all the time. People quite like it in sport. They quite like the understudy, the idea that you've seen someone's first game for your club, and you can turn around and you've got bragging rights with your mate, and you can go, I always said he was going to be a player, even if you booed the team off that day. I always knew he was going to be good.
When we said Nessun Dorma, how much did you think of Italian 90?
No, I thought of a guy called Tony Stenson catching a squash ball in his underpants.
Sorry, what?
We were at the Open Golf one year, and we had this house. We had this fantastic house overlooking some wonderful lake or whatever, and we were playing cricket, and we found this sports equipment, and someone, it was a squash ball and a squash racket, and we could find one CD. We wanted to play some music. We're having a little bit of a barbecue. It was a Saturday. And the only CD we could find was opera, and so it was Nessun Dorma, and a fella hit this squash ball as high as you could possibly hit it. Tony had bet him that he could catch this. Tony had taken his trousers off, he spilt red wine down his trousers. It's one of those sort of days, and he sprinted across this lawn, and he caught this squash ball from God knows how high in his underpants. Absolutely magnificent. Crippled him. This is the sort of fun that we have. Can
you imagine what sports journalists are like? I would imagine the only people who get into more mischief than sports journalists when they're out on a job is, I suspect, political journalists when they're out on a job. Although in China, I suspect they're a bit more circumspect.
Yeah, no one's catching a squash ball in their underpants in China. I can assure you of that.
About strops in sport, and the reason we want to talk about this is because tennis player Coco Gauff has been caught. Well, I say caught. So there are cameras. You can tell me whether that's the right word to use. There are cameras behind the courts, and she was seen smashing up her racket. Now, she says there should be an area for me to let off some steam without being beamed around the world. Other people say, well, don't bash your racket up in public.
I'm sort of with that one, really. I mean, well, look, you can't have a designated area to smash all your equipment up. Really, I mean that's not a grown-up way about anything. Yeah, I mean, where is the one for this? Look, there are issues around, say, women's tennis, for instance, where there's so much of it is branding and so much of it is appearance. You think of Naomi Osaka arriving in that sort of very flowing jellyfish outfit.
Yeah.
And then pulled out injured about a couple of days later. And I'm sure it's an absolute genuine injury. But, you know, you look at that and think, well, how much was there a desire to make sure you sort of got into every single, on the part of your sponsors, how much is there a desire to make sure you get into every single media organisation before you pull out injured?
You think?
You never know. I'm not, you can't say for certain, but you never know. There's a lot of branding and so this sort of thing, it comes from that. It comes from the access from sport as entertainment now.
But what about the argument that I sort of think actually she has a point that she shouldn't have to be filmed the whole time. What about the argument that if you're playing sport at that level, there is a lot of emotion and it has to go somewhere?
Oh, without a doubt. But you see that there's a lot of emotion on the court. It's what the Australian Open has been praised in the last week or so for being so much better than Wimbledon, so much less stuffy. And this is part of the thing that they do, that they bring the athletes, you see them before they go out to play, and there's cameras in the gym area, and it's all part of this commercialisation of modern sport.
She's basically a multi-millionaire, Coco Gauff, because tennis is opening itself up and trying. And so if you're going to take the money, which is now multi-billion-dollar industry, the companies that are paying for all of this want their pound of flesh, and they want to see you as you come off, as you go on, as you're in the locker room, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can smash. There's no cameras in the locker room. You can smash your racket up in the locker room if you can wait that long. Basically, it's not going to be that far.
Yeah,
it's not going to. You're going to go about another 10 steps, and you can probably turn right.
There are cameras in the locker room.
That's weird.
Yeah, there are. And in American sport, journalists just walk straight into the locker room.
That's also weird.
And I've seen pictures of them doing it, journalists, where they're interviewing players stark naked, and players just stand there completely naked, having come off the pitch.
No, they don't.
They do, and journalists there with their microphones saying, "Can we?" That happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. In American sport, it does.
That's that view that
not here. I mean, I'd like to see you try and get in a Fergie's dressing room afterwards.
Hugo Rifkin just joined us in the studio for this discussion about nudity in sport and cameras.
Real public school flashbacks.
Okay, good.
Not the cameras, mind you. Yeah.
Deary me.
Like I haven't seen you two walk out of the studio and jump up and down on your headphones. Anyway.
I really, very seriously wondered what you were going to say there, because we do not take our clothes off before or after.
We get our clothes off and we just stand around and talk.
We just wander through the office. Can you imagine?
There's nothing wrong with that.
There is absolutely something wrong with that.